Hello there. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We are live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on our digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Ghana's coronavirus cases continue in an upward surge as 229 new cases are recorded, with death toll remaining 58. We hear from health authorities as they dismiss accusations they are massaging the figures. Also coming up, details emerge on the SDA Health Services Director who died of COVID-19 from Ashanti Regional Health Authorities. 200 more health workers isolate as they undergo tests. We're live in the region for the very latest. And minority in Parliament fumes as Electoral Commission fails to convince them of a compilation of a new register. We're live in Parliament to hear both sides of the argument and how much the EC says it requires to keep people safe for the new registration. We're live on your digital television, also on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We're streaming live on YouTube. You can send us your thoughts, your questions, your comments on 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andorpia. This is The Pause. Please be my guest. Welcome to the show. Now, the number of deaths resulting from coronavirus is now 58, as you may well be aware of, and that's according to new figures put out by the Ghana Health Service today. The number is an increase of 4 from last Sunday, and that was revealed by the Director General of the service, Dr. Patrick Abuaje, during a news conference here in Accra not so long ago. He also revealed that 229 new cases have been recorded, bringing the cumulative cases to 12,193.
As at yesterday, the report having the total number of positives are 2,193 cases out of 255,971 persons tested at a positivity rate of 4.76%. These numbers are the numbers that are from the first day that we had a case up to today, and we continue to add any numbers that are tested. And our policy is routine testing, which is those who report conditions, and then we also have enhanced testing where we are testing our contacts and also identifying at-risk groups to test them. We have 4,326 recoveries so far, but we because there's new evidence about the behavior of the virus, and so we may be looking at all the evidence to look at our discharge, so that we'll be able to get more people of who really do need our attention no more. We have recorded so far declared 58 deaths. The last 4 deaths which was added are all in Accra, 3 males and a female. I'll give you details when I get to the next slide. So that leaves our active to about 7,813. Currently, there are 18 severe cases with 4 who are critical and ventilators. Now, as of today, the new addition is 229 new cases from 9 regions, 9 out of the 16 regions. Ashanti region has recorded 30 new cases, Central region 42, Savannah 34, Greater Accra 32, Western region 17 cases, Eastern 11 cases, Volta 11, and Upper West 10 cases, NOT 2 cases. And these are, when it comes to Greater Accra, of the 32, we have a generalized spread. We are not having major hotspots, and so we have Waja, Ayawaso, These are the regular places where we have regular cases appearing. Eastern region has 11 new cases from Green North, New Javin 1 and Fantiako 1. So that's quite, as you can see, the outbreaks, initial spurts in the Nkoko area, Ko West have been contained, and so there are no more reporting cases. Central region is reporting 42 new cases from Gomwa and other parts of the country, but they are more spread, minor 221 here, that is coming up. Western region had 70 new cases. We are from the same Takwan, Swayem and Sekeni Takwa. These are the core hospitals. As we speak to now, the public health team, Dr. Sarkodie and his team, are trying to work with them in isolation and finding adequate isolation and being able to contain and move all those who are positive into a place to contain the spread. Upper West recorded 10 cases from Sisala West, and these are follow-up of contacts from a case that was identified. We have Water having 11 cases. Ashanti reported 70 cases, again from Oilcrom and Kumasi Metro. These are the core areas, so you can see that the generalized by the number of districts that are reporting cases in Ashanti in the last a week ago has significantly come down. Upper East, Northern, and Northeast did not report any case. So, as you can see, the Upper East containment has also been done because that was in one small location for which we were able to quickly contain, isolate, and then we are not getting new spread again. We have the Western North reporting no case. We have Savannah reporting 34 new cases. These are from enhanced contact tracing induced for 2 race groups.
That's Dr. Patrick Abuaje there. Well, pressure group Occupy Ghana is casting doubt over the statistics of people who have died from COVID-19. In a statement, the group said some anomalies it has detected in the data cannot be a true reflection of the situation on the ground. It explained that as of yesterday, quote, reported 54 deaths so far cannot be right. For example, even though 38 deaths have been reported from the Ashanti region alone, less than 20 of those deaths are included in the national count. If the public suspects underreporting, etc., there will be a loss of trust in the reporting system, and that will have consequences that will influence public behavioral responses. End of quote. That is a quote from the statement released by pressure group Occupy Ghana. But the Ghana Health Service is rejecting the claim that it may be massaging these figures. Here is Dr. Patrick Abuaje again.
And I was going to show the procedure. Once a death is reported in the region, we have another case management team that does audit, clear conferencing with them to see what was the cause of death, how was it managed. Is it all the circumstances, the COVID death, how do we confirm? As soon as that is done, they are added. And so you may see a region reporting a certain number. We are not only interested in the number. We want to know whether is treatment appropriate, where are they coming from, do we have the things you need to? So that's how it is being done. So just to say that nobody is deliberately putting numbers. We know the state reps are there, and every Ghanaian will see what situation reports, Greater Accra, Ashanti, all regions supplied. But there is a process because we are only interested in just the numbers, but also validating and knowing what to do. And that's why the whole of last week, its management goes out there to see what's happening in the region. Do we need additional beds? Do we have enough training to manage those cases? So those are the things that we do. So as and when the case management team has a conference with the region, they will clear and the numbers go up and be handed to us in part of our report.
Well, Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Anthony Nsia Asare, has also been responding to Occupy Ghana's claims.
Generate any figures from the policy level. The presidential task force and that matter for the presidency doesn't generate any figures. there is an implementing agency. So this COVID-19 fight is led by Ghana Health Service, the teaching hospitals, and the Ministry of Health is the policy level who is also organizing them, and then we have a presidential task force. The presidency doesn't generate any figures. We see the figures as you have seen here today, and then we then use the figures to plan and monitor whatever is going on. We have shown you exactly the regions and the districts where we're having the COVID-19 cases. So we then target the regions and the districts where we have to send resources there. So I want to repeat once again, we don't generate any figures, we don't manipulate any figures at the presidency, or for that matter, at the presidential task force level. And that is how it is. So I want everybody to take it that the figures that we see, that's what we put forward. Figures that we see, that's what we put forward. And when they put the figures forward, we take it, plan of it, monitor, and then supervise.
So are there any generation of figures anywhere? What are we doing with our case management? The Coalition of NGOs in Health says Ghana has taken its eyes off the management of COVID-19. According to the leader of the coalition, Dr. Gabriel Benaku, this has led to a spike in the positive cases that we're seeing within the past few weeks. Ghana has recorded an average of about 282 positive cases each day between June 1 and June 13, with a total of 16 infected persons dying from the virus. Dr. Benaku joins me via Zoom, so we have a quick conversation on this. Doc, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Why do you say, or why are you of the opinion that government has taken its eyes off management of COVID-19 cases? When you say that, what exactly do you mean? Okay, Doc, I need you to unmute your Zoom because you're muted at the moment.
Okay, thank you. One critical sector that Ghana have not done well, if you like, the implementing agency, which is the Ghana Health Service, is the sociological aspect of the COVID-19 management. If you notice, since February, the Coalition of NGOs has always been very loud and clear about why we need to involve everybody in the fight. In March, we praised the president for the political commitment and then the financial pronouncement. In April, we warned the country that please put in place mechanism that will decentralize the funding mechanism for Ghana Health Service to be able to do their job well. And we also warned that please make sure that our traditional authority and religious body are properly mainstream. We also came out with another survey suggesting that the Metropolitan, Municipal, and District Assembly have a critical role. As at the time the president lifted the partial lockdown, we said that the government needed to double out the effort being put in place and decentralize the response, create national control program on coronavirus. So these are critical interventions that has been relaxed. No matter how the presidential advisor will explain, we are on the ground and we think that we need to give them this information so that they can plan with. For example, if you are talking about contact tracing, there are so many institutions that need to help this contact tracing. Talking about the traditional authority, talking about the religious body, talking about civil society that already have the expertise. We have done that for HIV, we have done that for malaria, TB, talking about leprosy. So why are civil society not properly mainstream into the community tracing and community education? The next point is that stigma, we warned us at 22nd April that the Ministry of Information needed to involve the mental health authority, and the mental health authority already have mental health and psychologists in the various districts, so that they can be capacitated to play a critical role in anti-stigma reduction messages. They later initiated, but it is not trickled down to the communities. And therefore, you are seeing, and I have seen a lot of documentary you have picked from the community where so many people have been stigmatized. Our parliament themselves have self-stigmatized themselves. Other government officials have stigmatized themselves. And we create activities that do not allow us to go to the grassroots to be able to let everybody appreciate people who already have been treated and they are discharged. We have not promoted advocacy. We have not promoted champions. We have not promoted ambassadors who need to really let Ghanaians know how it is, what one goes through, why we must all preach anti-stigma reduction in the various communities. So the sociological systems and factors that we needed to fuel in to support Ghana Health Service and the Metropolitan Municipal District Assembly have not been much more integrated, and therefore funding has caused the whole thing. So what we are suggesting is that get the traditional leaders on board, support the Ghana Health Service to strengthen their system, increase the number of people who support the social, the contact tracing, and ensure that civil society have been properly integrated as we have done in the other public health interventions. If we do that, everybody will be alert, everybody will support, and everybody will begin to protect one and the other. And that we can really break down the chain of the pandemic.
Some people have suggested that we are not even testing as much. They say that because of concerns that have come from people who are supposed to be contact tracers, who say they have not had the remuneration promised them, and so they have, some of them say they have boycotted, they've given up. What information is the coalition picking on the ground as far as the work of contact tracers is concerned?
Yeah, as part of our research, the equity distribution of access to testing is still inadequate. So there are two critical points here. We are supposed to have helped all the regional hospitals to be centers. And we are tracking the Ministry of Information, Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, who promised that they were going to calibrate the existing health facilities that have TB laboratories, that they can calibrate to ensure that all the regions can do the test and report. That we have not seen. We are still tracking when they will do that. But the truth is that we needed these testing centers in all the regional capitals. And even within the region, there are capacities within the region facilities, both private and public facilities, that you can allow the testing to be there. So we do not support the idea that you pick a sample and you travel over 200 kilometers before you can get the results. That is not a proper health system. So that is one. The second aspect is that we have our research centers. So far, apart from the few pronouncements we have seen pronounced by Noguchi and a few other, what is government doing about our research so far? You cannot come to the podium and just tell us about how the figures are increasing. But you need to tell us the science behind that and what the scientists are doing for Ghana. That, if you don't do that, the psychologists and the psychiatrists will not be able to package the messages that can calm down the depressional nature the country is going through, and that can also support the country in the role we all need to play, including the media. We need to have timely information. We need to have scientific information, as the ministry report that they are moving the country based on science and data. We are not seeing the practical nature of the science and data that they are talking about.
Okay, so lack of the practical explanation of the science behind the figures. You think that that's playing a part in the way people perceive the seriousness of this disease? Yes,
psychologically, I can change my behavior towards a particular practice if I'm empowered, if I'm educated, and if I'm supported. So the three things make a change. So you cannot provide superficial education that cannot move people to attitudinal change. And all that we are saying is that support the municipal, metropolitan, and district assemblies with the Ghana Police Service, together with the Ghana Health Service, including the social structures in every district. That is the traditional authorities, the religious body, civil society, and other recognized private institutions. Let them come together in a very transparent manner to agree that we want to do 1, 2, 3. That is not forthcoming. So, for example, if you pick a normal district assembly now, the attention and the intervention they rolled out a month ago is reducing. You can pick 2, 3 districts and do your survey. What it means is that we are not sustaining the effort we made 2 months ago. And so we are very reactive as a country. We only respond, and you know what it means. You declare Takoradi as a hotspot, but the necessary logistic you are supposed to give to Takoradi is not forthcoming. Then you will be there and it will move from Takoradi to another location. Let me give you a typical example. We had a recorded case in Wa, at the Upper West region. We warned that in addition to the Upper East and the Eastern region, government should do something about it. It has been relaxed for several months. Now you are recording very high cases in Upper West, for example. So what it means is that after we identified the case, we have responded and we have relaxed, and then the virus has gained root in the Upper West. So what kind of science are we interpreting, and what practical support are we providing based on the science and data?
Okay. So
you are not activating the social structures that need to support the science of the technical team. And so we continue to let government know that all is not well with us. We must not relax. They must be able to encourage, motivate, and that motivation is reducing.
Okay.
So they should ginger up. They should engage all, activate. Let's try to improve on collaboration and engagement, because we are all in it.
To find out from you, as a coalition of NGOs in health, to what extent have you engaged medical authorities on this particular issue you have raised?
My sister, we have done our best. There's no institution in Ghana that have done surveys comparable to the coalition of NGOs in health. And if you trace our story from January, we have done 16 surveys. We are happy that government have used most of the surveys, but we think that we are relaxing as a country. Let me give you a typical example. We were the first to come out with a survey to inform the Ministry of Information that please use the local languages in the fight against the COVID. After 3 days, they repackage, silence the English, and begin to project the local. Find out now from the local language whether it's being used again. That attention has been reduced, but we needed to intensify by now. And in fact, not one jingle. You are not supposed to use one jingle, because you are supposed to be informed by the science and the data. So as we are getting more cases, we cannot use the same jingle to play. We have to use a different strategy in communicating using the local dialect. So you have the Gare, we have the Bani, we have the Bunsa, we have the Gan, we have the Twi. Even Twi, we have 2 different types of Twi or Tre. So we need to be changing the messages as the science is directing us. But we have played jingle for 3 months now without changing the content. That cannot change behaviors. The other aspect is that we were the first to do a survey, and we wrote a letter to the president, open letter to the president, and we said that if you lift partial lockdown, what it simply means is that you need to intensify the effort being made. You need to double the logistics, and you can trace from your media. We have given you such releases. You need to double up that. Then we also came out on the same platform and told the president that if you are lifting or if you are ending your executive instrument, you cannot go ahead to just lift it without passing another executive instrument for the use of mask and social distancing. It was just 3 days ago that the president officially announced that it is now a law. How many months? More than a month. And so now that it is a law, we hope to see that the necessary logistics should be provided to the Ghana Police Service. The necessary logistics should be provided to the Ghana Health Service Regional Task Force. They will also intend decentralize the logistical support to the district. The third point in our research we recommended is that the ordinary Ghana Health Service will perform creditably if the centers within the areas that government earmarked or the Ministry of Health earmarked are provided with the necessary logistics.
Okay.
My sister, I can give you evidence of districts that have places earmarked for them to be provided with logistics in case of cases, then they can keep both the suspected and infected.
I see.
But you can go there and you find out that the two scenarios do not have the necessary, what do you call it, washrooms.
So the bottom line...
You cannot keep people, two different groups of people for them to use one washroom. This is not public health accepted.
Okay.
So it means we are really not supporting the districts to be up and doing and to be really prepared. Right. And that is what we keep on telling government. Every day we have data. Every day we keep on talking. Please, let's support the Ghana Health Service at the district level. They can do the job.
Okay. Mr. Dr. Benaku, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana, I beg your pardon, he's the chairperson of the Coalition of NGOs in Health, Dr. Gabriel Benaku, joining us this afternoon, raising key issues there as well. He talks about the testing centers that are needed, the fact that testing centers are needed across the country, the fact that we need to understand the science, or government should communicate the science behind the figures that they give us and what the scientists are doing to help change or shape behavioral patterns, and how they have done surveys, several of them, how they actually forewarned a month ago about the need to make wearing of masks mandatory before lifting of restrictions were done. Well, the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association, still on case management, Dr. Justice Jansen, spoke earlier on Prime Morning. He's been explaining that our healthcare institutions are already overstretched.
The increasing case count is a source of worry to everybody because it clearly indicates that there is significant community spread. Now, the knock-on effect is that we are seeing a lot more symptomatic cases at the various health facilities. Now, as a country, if you look at our approach, by and large, we have identified some facilities as the main or national treatment centers, whilst the various health facilities, as and when, also try to create some room within their limited, health infrastructure to see if they can accommodate some of these patients. So as the base, i.e. the case count goes up and we try to see a lot more symptomatic cases, what we are beginning to see is that some specialized areas like those who need critical care and what have you, clearly we are beginning to be overstretched. The health professionals themselves are also getting overstretched. Even outside Accra, the cases are increasing.
Dr. Jansen there speaking to my colleague Daniel Dazi on Prime Morning. We'll take a very quick break here on the pause, but still to come, we'll talk about the calls for a focus on behavioral change because they have soared, but people continue to defy the orders to wear face masks. We'll take you to town for you to take a look at what people are doing as far as adhering to that mandatory wearing of face masks is concerned. We'll have a conversation. How do we change this behavior? I want to hear from you when I return. Text us on 0540109009. When I return, I'll read your messages. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Now, the cause for a focus on behavioral change has soared because several people continue to defy the wearing of face masks despite consistent messages on its importance for people to stay away or to stay safe from contracting coronavirus. President Akufo-Addo has had to move from persuasion to force. On Sunday, he directed that wearing of masks should be mandatory, a directive which is to be followed by an executive instrument making it an offense not to wear the mask. Well, it has been about 48 hours since that announcement, and the message should be fresh in our minds. But a drive through the Central Business District alone is all it takes to prove that people are not budging. PSC Nanayo Safo has been out and about. Here is what he found.
The novel coronavirus may be a recent canker, but the trait of indiscipline is not and continues to stifle the state's efforts in fighting the pandemic. Ghana now has more than 11,000 confirmed positive cases, with about 50 more dead in the country. JoyNews is in the Central Business District of Accra to check how seriously the threat of this virus is taken and what people are doing in terms of discipline, wearing their face mask and following other directives given by state.
Yeah, to say I read any mum see a ho. In Tiawa, no pipe penny yesterday, say I read no, ever call my Amayansi and Wato, and no penny yesterday. Oh, people know better now in Shamas now, or Becca Sound Tomo, and no I saw into Subabo, whom by saying I'll be free at Chibanova, or no Sabbath Tomo say I don't swear found and no penny yes sure.
So Pamela is a trader here, as you heard her explain. She says that most of them have not heard or seen of this coronavirus itself, but they believe in its existence, and as such, they are taking all measures possible to keep safe within this period. She also says most of her customers demand that she must have her nose mask on at all times, and for that reason, she also has hers in place. We move on to the next lady here.
Oh, Obiba, yeah, Max, near Wobi. Ton adika cry or sanitizer ya nsusia ya ko huru yensa na ye use na ye ko ye ni mo anu no
na mask no umwa you say umwa na mo ye umwa na mo say
wo sha ya hometo kakra Yaminti.
Okay, so that is Regina. Regina says she has been into sales of cassava here for quite some time. She says once in a while she brings down her nose mask just for comfort and ease. And I asked her whether she wasn't afraid of the risk associated with this. She said by God's grace everything was going to be fine and that she was not going to die in any way.
Oh, I'm bad there. I'm man. I'm fire so to say and say into our bio, make all Jan say, make all young. Oh, 12 city. Oh, 10 city. Oh, mommy back home. Now I talk.
Social distance.
Can't go mupa. It's all men. It means to me men.
I can't those masks so handsome. I say, yeah, but you who say, oh, share. That is the one time, Shana.
Oh, me, Shapa, me, didn't be a Michelle. Nepe, and I miss you.
It's because a face mask now, won't say, yeah, I can't say.
Me say, yeah.
Send those masks, and you know.
There be me send, and I mean to me, home, and to my chamber. Manu asie na me hu me ye oh there be me ntwi nko me hu me ni say na me kra me hu fa.
She says she does not get so close to customers anymore and that she maintains the highest social distancing in that they usually stand here and she stands there far apart. She doesn't put her nose mask over her nose because she said it's very uncomfortable. I don't know how mask.
Oh, Miss Shapana, me party me near Manu. Enemy. Miss Papa. Who's Alia? Hey, and I actually know.
But the nurse must know, eh?
Me and me go social share banana, I say. Enemy bottom.
Mommy, we are not much to say. They say you are here tomorrow.
Yalian, say me where you are. Sanka me here, and you ma rush me. We are made the way. No, Jammy, we are. No, Jammy, I who say. No, Jammy, say.
So she says, well, you saw it right there for her. So I asked her where her nose mask was, and she had to reach deep down into her apron space to find it. It was covered amidst plastic bags and some other clothes and others. And she says that she's fine so long as after finding it, she uses sanitizer.
Nose mask, you know, get money no day.
Money no day for nose mask?
Yes. See money day, see I get money, I go buy them. Even money no day, the bag in the market no good. I no sell them, I see on my own.
So you don't have 5 cedis on you to buy nose mask?
I know it once they no get.
PC Nanaya Osafo, who was out and about there. Joining me on Skype is Dr. Phyllis Dako Jeke. She's a health communication expert and also a senior lecturer and head of departments of social and behavioral sciences. Doc, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon, my dear.
Okay, so the general conversation, the general conversation is to understand how we can get behavioral change out of Ghanaians as far as this is concerned, and because this is a public health issue. We've struggled with sanitation, etc. But this is a public health issue, so essentially you'll expect that people are concerned about their health, but it doesn't look like that. There are 3 different categories of people I see here. Those who appreciate the disease exists, but are not wearing it anyway. Those who are wearing it, but wearing it wrongly, and those who are in denial. Take them one after the other for me. These 3 people, how do we get Ghanaians to understand that there is a real threat out there? Sticking to these 3 categories of people.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you are drawing attention to these 3 categories of people. We have the first, those who are not wearing at all. And then we have those who are wearing but not wearing it very well. Yeah. And those who do not even believe that there is any kind of disease that would actually require that they wear. Just to do a little bit of linkages, your reporter was also making mention of a few things that I want to draw attention to.
Okay.
He mentioned the fact that out there are people who have heard, right, about coronavirus disease, and there are those who do not believe about its existence. A number of things that we draw from on this, right? So when we want a behavioral change and we are using communication as a tool, there are concepts or there are things that are relevant here. So the first one is what we call awareness, right? So when you want to measure awareness or you want to know who is aware of a particular phenomenon, in this case, which is COVID-19, then all you are interested in is who has heard of this. So in communication, in sending out messages, who has heard about COVID-19? That is one. And the next level would be knowledge. So knowledge would be those who have heard, but actually have specific understanding of how the disease works, and also specific understanding of all the precautionary measures that are supposed to be taken to prevent contracting the disease, and also all the means of transmission. So it is not just awareness, but once you move to knowledge, you build other things into awareness. That is having the relevant knowledge that will lead you to do what is expected of you. The third arm, so we have awareness, then we have knowledge. The third arm is actually the practice. That is what we want. So people have heard about the disease. They have specific knowledge or relevant knowledge about the disease in terms of transmission, prevention, and all that. But the third one is the practice. Are they actually practicing what is expected of them? Usually in health communication, what you realize is that there is a pyramid that we can build out of these 3 dimensions. So awareness, usually you have a lot of people who are aware of the disease, they've heard of it. And when you come to knowledge, there is a gap. you don't have the same number of people who have heard of the disease translating it into knowledge. And even when you get to practice, it becomes much more smaller, the number of people who are practicing it, which means that at each level, as we are going higher of this hierarchy, we drop out. So we are sending out lots of information that COVID-19 is there. However, we are not actually impacting people with the relevant knowledge that they are supposed to have. And in between knowledge and practice is what we call the self-efficacy, and creating an enabling environment so that people can actually practice. There is also a gap. So even those who have the knowledge, they also still have a gap in there in trying to practice it. So from here, just like you were asking me, those who are not wearing the nose mask, yes, they have heard that there is a disease, but do they really understand the transmission, modes of transmission? Do they really understand ways in which they are supposed to act so that that they will prevent themselves from actually contracting the disease? And if they do they have the means, do they have the enabling environment to practice these precautionary measures that are being spelled out by the government, the Ghana Health Service, and all other state authorities?
So with this background that you have given us, if you were to advise on how to put this together in a communication material or in a communication campaign that works, where do we start from?
All right, so thank you for the question. So where do we start from? Just a little bit of background. So in March, when we started recording the first few cases, we know that the president came to us to actually tell us that we have recorded cases and citizenry were supposed to do A, B, and C. What we realized at that time was that the information flow was very, very top-down. So we would all be sitting behind our television sets or behind radio sets and listening to the president speaking to us about COVID-19. Beyond that, there was no way of understanding what was going on. However, March, April, May, we are in June. We are being expected to build other communication channels. And these communication channels are supposed to be channels that are relevant at the community level. So we are no longer expected to be using the top-down messages anymore. However, we are supposed to go into the communities and do a number of things. The first one is to identify relevant communication channels that people trust within their communities. So when you use those channels, it could be anything. Now, we are not supposed to come together. However, we know that there are communities that do, for instance, the gongo beating and send messages through that. Can we use that? That is one, identifying the relevant communication channels. The other one is using trusted people within the communities. So there are opinion leaders within the communities. There are NGOs who are already working within the communities who are very much trusted by these communities, that when they tell you that your life is threatened by COVID-19, the possibility of you contracting the disease, people will sit up and listen to them. And you know that once these opinion leaders start talking to us, because they have an eye on us, they are very much close to us, people feel enabled and also feel compelled to adapt some of these things. So there are two things that we can do now: identify relevant channels at the community levels and also use opinion leaders or trusted people at this level. And at the heart of all of this is community engagement. We need to engage the communities rather than just sending out messages and just hope that it will drop somewhere and somebody will pick the information and act on it. We are supposed to consciously work with communities, engage them, understand what the challenges are. Why are you not wearing the mask? What are the challenges? What is your perspective? And then we work with them for an outcome that will lead to a reduction in the cases that we keep recording.
I hope that we get there. And I indicated in my intro today that President Akufo-Addo seems to have moved from persuasion. And I remember the early days when he addressed the country. He'd say he's urging people to do it looks like he's moved from persuasion to force. So he talks about an executive instrument that will back mandatory wearing of masks. This is a public health situation. People have to take care of themselves, and to protect themselves from other people as well. Will force work in such instances?
Thank you very much. So there are a number of theories or models or frameworks that can be used if you want to persuade people for them to engage in a particular attitude or practice that you are interested in. So engaging them is one thing, that is one of the things that I mentioned, which means that you understand that they also have a position in this, and you want to reason with them more. That is one angle. And the other angle is applying force. There are several countries, and it's not just Ghana, there are several countries out there that for specific kind of behaviors, they would apply force, which has worked very well. You go to Rwanda and other places, when they talk about sanitation, it's about force, because if you don't comply, the police is out there to catch you, right? So force is one, and also we can sometimes also use fear appeal, right? So you appeal to people's senses by letting them know the threats that are associated, or the risks and exposures that are associated with coronavirus disease. When you want to persuade them, there are different angles that you want to use. My only caution is that you want to use an angle that it will be easy for you to enforce and push for. I ask myself that if we are going for force, which means that if I don't have the nose mask on, a police is so going to arrest me. Is the police safe? And am I safe in the process? Would it be better for us to continue to let people understand where they are and what they are supposed to do? And I also tell myself that I think we are beating ourselves too hard, right? I ask myself, when did we start talking about coronavirus disease? We started talking about coronavirus disease in March, and we are in June, and we are expecting every individual in Ghana to have changed their behavior. That is not realistic. Absolutely not realistic. We ask, or we are watching television, we are listening to the news, and have access to different kinds of information wherever we are. But the intersection between communication and public health is not being emphasized a lot. So, for instance, different kinds of information that the media houses would have given out to us. Yes, they would be giving out information. We might take it and use it if we please. However, whenever there is an intersection between communication and public health, it means that there should be specific approaches that will be used for specific outcomes. And the outcome here is behavior change. So we are not just giving information out there, but we are also trying to assess how the information is being received, and can we modify the way the information is going out there. I think that we all have a role to play here, not just governments, not just the individual, the media houses. We also have a role. We need to rethink how we give the information out to our viewers and also to our listeners.
Talking about rethinking the mode through which we communicate this issue, is fear an effective tool?
That's an interesting question. So we've done a lot of research when HIV and AIDS started. Some of us were very much interested in HIV and AIDS, and personally, I took to studying the communication tools that were being used to communicate about HIV and AIDS. So this is in the early 2000s and also the late 90s. I had the opportunity to actually assess images and also jingles that were out there that was pushing HIV and AIDS as a threat. What we realized down the line was that the fear appeal may have worked initially to put fear into people for them to change their behaviors. However, the disadvantage of that is that we create the stigma and the discrimination. So unfortunately, you are thinking that people should be afraid of the disease. However, they transfer that fear from the disease to the person who contracts the disease, which is very unfortunate. And we have realized over the years that communities and societies have not been able to manage that very well. So you push so much fear into people that when you mention the disease, that anybody who unfortunately had contracted the disease becomes the victim, and everybody is running away from them. So fear, I would cringe a little bit away from that. I believe that if we take the route of using science, communication, and empowering communities to lead this fight, we would go far rather than putting fear into them.
That's the second time we've heard today, right here on the show, the need for the science to be applied in sending this message across. Doc, I'll say a very big thanks to you. Thank you so much. I'm sure that as the days go ahead, we'll have to come back to you, so we'll have more of these conversations in the hope that it will educate people and it will bring people that behavioral change that we all require. Dr. Phyllis Dakon Jeke is a health communication expert and a senior lecturer, also head of Department Social and Behavioral Sciences at the University of Ghana. So fear, false persuasion, appeal, science, what do we go for and how effective will they be? Our Foreign Affairs Minister Shirley Ayokoboche says 250 Ghanaians from the UAE will be arriving in the country today. She says this forms part of government's phase 2 evacuation plans to bring home nationals who are stranded abroad.
The phase 2 evacuations, which mainly comprise privately arranged charter flights as well as evacuations earmarked from now to the end of 2020, is as follows. Evacuations from Nigeria on the 4th and 11th of June the 4th brought in 7 persons, Ghanaians, and on the 11th we received 70 returnees who, as we speak, are undergoing their 14-day mandatory quarantine. Then we had an evacuation on the 6th of June from Washington, D.C. of 41 students who were on exchange program in the United States. The evacuation was financed by the State Department of the United States of America, and they are also under quarantine. We have also received on the 6th and the 9th of June a total of 19 Ghanaian mine workers, and they are also in a hotel under quarantine. 14 Ghanaian mine workers were also evacuated from Burkina Faso on the 6th of June. They are also in quarantine. On the 8th, 24 Ghanaian deportees and 1 student were received from China and are undergoing quarantine as well. Then we have 45 workers from Israel who were also received on the 12th of June, also under quarantine. The ministry took advantage of charter flights arranged by the governments of Egypt and South Africa to evacuate their stranded nationals in Ghana. So the South African government, the Egyptian government were bringing in flights to evacuate their nationals out of Ghana. And we were able to, for South Africa, we brought in 3 Ghanaians, and for Egypt brought in 3 Ghanaians. For South Africa, we brought back 5 Ghanaians. They are also going through the process. All these evacuations have been successfully executed. The third phase of the evacuation exercise began on the 12th of June with the arrival of the first batch of 254 stranded Ghanaians from Dubai. In addition, 141 students who completed their French language proficiency course in Benin Republic were evacuated on Saturday 13th June by STC buses and are undergoing the 14-day mandatory quarantine. We expect to receive the second batch of 250 stranded Ghanaians from UAE today, the 16th of June. And then the following assisted evacuations are also in the pipeline. Tomorrow, the 17th, and Sunday, the 21st, we have over 400 Ghanaians who will be coming back home. Also on the 19th, we expect 13 Ghanaians from Burkina Faso. They will come by road. And then we are looking at also bringing back Ghanaians, totaling about 195 from Lebanon on the 19th, like I said. Then we'll be evacuating Ghanaians from New York, from Washington, D.C., from China, Guangzhou, And China, we are looking at the end of the month, as well as end of the month for Washington, D.C., and also for New York. We are also planning evacuations, and we are discussing it for the Ghanaians within the continental Europe area. And there are not that many, but discussions have started. Discussions have also started to bring back home Ghanaians in other parts of Africa.
Foreign Affairs Minister Shelia Ikobochi there. We'll take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Some of your messages sent through so far. This one says, I am shocked to see people in the market or other places without masks. I think the security agencies should start enforcing this law. But I will also wish to see government provide masks for these security agencies to start distributing them to the general public who are found walking without the masks for at least 2 weeks, and educate the people on the need to wear them before they can start arresting recalcitrant people. The point that Dr. Dakojeke makes about enforcing or going for directives that you can actually enforce based on the resources essentially that are available to you. Someone says we should encourage more people to wear the mask in the right way. This one is sending the message from Bekwai. It says, Nana Kwame from Asante Bekwai. Do you know that the body here going by, okay, I'm not sure what you mean. It says that, do you know that Bekwai have cases recorded here and still the bars are working? You mean the bars are open there? I think you should report them to the authorities, because bars, drinking spots, to be precise, are not supposed to be open. This message says, I do not believe that the COVID-19 figures are manufactured, but I strongly support what the NGOs and civil society are saying. The government has actually laid its hands off the fight. That is why we have this spike in numbers. I support that there is always underreporting of the cases that the GHS director said is not true. The regional directorate sometimes will confirm cases, and it will take more than 3 days to add it. You mean for the national to add it to their figures? We need to intensify public education. This is from Yakzu Zakaria from Yendi. Let's look at some of our stories. We'll come back to the messages. Now, Upper West Commander of the Ghana Prison Service and Assistant Director of Prisons, Francis Selom Hagbe, has disclosed that tests conducted on all 117 inmates of the Wa prison have tested negative. As a result of that, their main focus is to prevent other inmates from contracting the disease. ADP Francis made the disclosure when he received food and other items from the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council to help the fight against coronavirus. From the Upper West region, our correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
The Wa prison currently holds an inmate population of 117, comprising of 30% remand and 70% convicted prisoners, meaning the prison constructed almost a century ago to take care of less than 100 inmates now has exceeded the threshold. Despite the huge number of inmates at the 10-cell prison, and with the advent of COVID-19, authorities here have the onerous task of ensuring that overcrowding at the prison is dealt with. Upper West Regional Commander of the Ghana Prison Service, Assistant Director of Prisons, Francis Selom Hagbe, in a brief remark after receiving donation of food and non-food items from the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, stated that due to adherence of strict health protocols, all 117 inmates tested negative.
Invariably, it will help us to strengthen our response to COVID-19 and also improve the welfare of prisoners. We want to use this opportunity to inform you that with collaboration with the Regional Disease Control Unit, we have tested all inmates of Wa Central Prison, and all the results prove negative.
ADP Francis Selom Hagbe said their focus now is on prevention and has put in place several measures to ensure that they achieve that feat.
As at now, as part of our response processes, they don't have physical contact with inmates. They are allowed to come, bring them gifts or whatever they are bringing to them. They identify the inmates, the items are handed over to them through an officer, but they don't have any direct contact with them. Also, church services and other social gatherings or NGOs that visit the prison, and we have curtailed all those things. So that's what we are doing for now. And all officers must also wear nose masks before entering. They wash their hands, their temperatures are checked before they enter. That's what we are doing for now. And we have placed Veronica buckets in vantage points inside the prison for the prisoners to be washing their hands as often as possible. We've also got some vitamin C, which have been giving them to boost their immune system.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Salih presented the items on behalf of the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, worth a little over 10,000 Ghana cedis.
It is our collective responsibility to ensure that our unfortunate brothers who are in prison are catered for, and which COVID-19 people who are sent in there need to be studied and monitored for some time before they are accepted and put in prison. As a result of that, that has placed some burden on the prison authorities. So as Regional Coordinating Council, we have decided to come to the aid of the WA prisons by donating these items to them. I want to therefore use this opportunity to appeal to all and sundry that our prisoners need their assistance. So please come to their aid.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Still on COVID-19 and its infection rate on health workers, we take a look at the Ashanti region, where Director of Ghana Adventist Health Services, Dr. Paul Amotreme, has confirmed that the medical director of the Kwadaso SDA Hospital has died of COVID-19, but with underlying health conditions. The 48-year-old Dr. Harry Usubuating was found dead in his room on June 13, 2020, few days after he was complaining of being unwell.
It is true that the medical director or medical superintendent at Kwadaso SDA Hospital in Kumasi has passed away on the 13th June 2020 in the morning hours. And when the matter or the news was reported to us, a team was dispatched to take a sample to test, to establish what might have led to the demise. And when the results came, it was established that it was due to COVID-19, yet with underlying health or medical conditions. By the grace of God, our workers, they are stable. We've met them, we've spoken to them, and we've strengthened them. We've also fumigated the hospital, and now work is ongoing. Everything is under control.
It's obviously a difficult situation. Dr. Amotreme also revealed that 200 workers of the hospital are undergoing COVID-19 tests, which means they have to be isolated.
We should be rest assured that our workers, they are stable, everything is under control. For this reason, there is a need for us to test them, for them to know their status. Because doctor was working in the hospital, he was doing ward rounds with some of the workers, and being the medical director, he was chairing a lot of meetings. So we strongly believe that some of our workers may be at risk, and for them to be on the safer side, it will be more expedient to test them all. So we've tested them, yeah. And we are waiting for the results. We trust in no time the results will be out. And when the results are in, then it will also help us to know the further action which we will take.
Ohim Interior is joining us live from the area with more of what we ought to know. 200 workers, health workers having to be isolated. Certainly, we are looking at impact on healthcare delivery there. But some of your messages before we go to Ohim Interior. This message is from Richard T. He's sending it from Tamale. It's rather a long one. I'll try and read some. It says, as a matter of fact, as much as we commend the government for what they have done so far in this fight, I must emphatically state that our best is not really the best. We're still painting a picture that everything is under control. Meanwhile, we're just at the verge of being overwhelmed by this pandemic. I don't understand, he says, why we keep emphasizing that our death rate is low and recovery rate is high, and for that matter, we're doing better. Besides God being our side, we should know that the low death and high recovery rates may be hinged on the fact that our health facilities and caregivers are not overwhelmed yet. But we're almost getting there, you say. We'll talk to Ohim Interior and find out what the sense of whether or not the people feel this sense of overwhelming state of this pandemic. He says we just have to take a cue from what is happening in countries like Italy, Spain, the US, and take pragmatic measures on that. Let's go to Ohim Interior right now, who is joining us from the Ashanti region. Ohim. Right. Give us an update on these 200 workers who have to undergo the COVID-19 test. What do we know? What more do we know about them?
Yes, Gifty, the 200 workers are from Kwadaso SDA Hospital in Kumasi. The Ghana Adventist Health Services believe that some of the workers, some who were close to the doctor and worked with him on routine medical and ward rounds, could be at risk of COVID-19. So that is why they are collaborating with the Regional Health Directorate and the Kwadaso Municipal Health Directorate to test the over 200 workers who works at the Kwadaso SDA Hospital in Kumasi, Gifty. And so they may have come into contact with this doctor who has died. As they are waiting for their results, I mean, this is 200 people. These are 200 people. Does it mean that there will be fewer people working at the hospital, or will it be closed altogether? That is what I sought to understand from the hospital management, but the indication I get is that these over 200 health workers who are believed to have come into contact with a doctor, they are not at post as we speak. At the time that I went to the hospital to speak to the hospital authorities and then the Ghana Adventist Health authorities, I realized though their samples were being taken, the hospital was still running with some hospital staff still at post giving and attending to the health needs of the general public. So yes, I would say the Kwadaso SDA hospital has not been closed down. Okay. It is still working, and according to management, even the number of patients who used to patronize the facility before the medical director died of COVID-19 has not gone down. They are rather seeing an increase in the number of patients who patronize the Kwadaso SDA hospital services. I mean, let's talk about this medical director. What more do we know about him? We understand from what you've said so far that he complained of ill health the previous day, and the next thing he was found dead in his room. Really disturbing. Tell us more. What do we know about him and the situation that led to his death? Well, what we do know about Dr. Harry Owusu Boateng is that he joined the Kwadaso SDA hospital in 2013, about 7 years ago, working as a physician, and in the process rose to the rank of the medical director. Since then, he has not left his post as a physician at the facility. He continued to serve the hospital in various capacities, especially attending to people in consulting rooms. So even at the time that he complained of ill health, the last time he reported for work was on Thursday, and he complained of ill health. And according to the hospital authorities, he was asked to go home and take a rest. So he went home on Thursday, but did not return to work on Friday. only to hear that he has passed on the Saturday morning. So when management heard the news, then they arranged for test with the support of the Kwadaso Health Directorate and the Regional Health Directorate for further tests to be done on him. And that is when it was confirmed that indeed he died of COVID-19, but with underlying health conditions that may have aggravated his condition, Gifty.
This is a very sad situation. Indeed, it saddens my heart to hear this story. But do we know from where he got this? He got the disease?
For now, it's too early, according to hospital sources, to be talking about where he got the condition. But when I spoke to the clinical coordinator, Dr. Randolph Ba-Edu, he did indicate that this is not the first time the hospital is recording COVID-19 case at the facility as far as health workers are concerned. But Dr. Harry Owusu-Boateng becomes the first casualty health worker to have died at the facility from COVID-19. And he says because management is so concerned with the life of health workers there, they have been conducting tests for staff every 2 weeks. So in every 2 weeks, they have COVID-19 tests for all medical staff at the facility. So for now, it's a big surprise to hear that Dr. Harry Owusu-Boateng, the medical superintendent, has died of COVID-19. As we speak now, they've not been able to establish where he contracted the condition from, whether at a facility or probably outside the hospital. It is still unknown, Gifty. I'm
sure that they will be conducting more tests so that we can understand what happened. Bahimi, do we know anything about his family? Does he have children? What more do we know?
That information has not been put out, but what I learned is that the late Dr. Harry Owusu-Boateng, his parents are also working in the same medical field. His mother, I learned, is somebody who works as a maternal health officer, and then the father is also a medical officer. But a lot of information on him is a bit sketchy, but this is the information that we do know about him. And then we also we are told that at the time of his death, he was living with his security man at his residence.
I mean, thank you. May his soul rest in peace. As it is now, information is still trickling in, and so we'll take it slow and we'll take it one at a time as and when it comes. So, I mean, thank you very much for that update. Let's go to the intensive care unit of the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital. It will, for the next 2 weeks, operate at half capacity after most doctors there were asked to go into isolation. A memo cited by Love News says staff at the facility were exposed to a patient who turned out positive for COVID-19. We'll bring you more on our story later. Meantime, though, COVID-19 is depriving many families in the Ashanti region of the customary and cultural obligation to their departed relatives as funerals remain on hold due to the pandemic. Commercial funeral organizers and contractors, including criers, are also feeling the pinch. My colleague Ohim Interior of our health desk again has been assessing the economic impact of the funeral ban on families which have lost loved ones. Here is his report.
For Asantis, funerals are meant to honor the transition of the soul of deceased persons to the ancestral world. Such rites are uniquely and flamboyantly done under the strict Ashanti culture. Funerals have become serious business in social gathering to mourn the dead and also make merry. The coronavirus pandemic has, however, caused many funerals to be postponed, called off or reduced to quick burial services. It means the usual hard grief process is put on hold, becoming a more difficult terrain to navigate. Naomi Mensah Ejay lost her 76-year-old father, Francis Kojo Mensah, an ex-military officer, 8 months ago.
Oluma ifirimu 16th November no. Inti nurse ye yento to yesi ebe yi ni 28 March. Ya ye bi preparation ye bi bia wi akopento oluma ifio nyina ni akra na chi. Amasi ye ni bi bia e basa.
The family, before Ghana recorded the first confirmed case of COVID-19, had set March 28, 2020 for the funeral. Introduction of presidential restrictions in pandemic response action forced an indefinite postponement of the funeral, which means additional cost.
Mami we so 20 years more na ese be remu. Nti esenka yebeka omumbe nu abom. Na ese amane ma asa kwa ebasa nti ye ma ye ready aho pa.
Naomi and her relatives are not alone in such dilemma, as hundreds of families face similar situations. Commercial funeral criers and contractors are also at the receiving end.
Yeah, Rade.
Meet one of them, a Raja from Poma. Bereaved families hire her services as a sit-in widow or presenter of Adichere or range of funeral gifts.
I'm a Juma, me, yase, a Juma. Upo biamane swamam. Oboha untiminsu. Emyase bia bibia ya no na nanso wani nsuo eti metimisum na wo waso na wo achi ayi opese oyi na ye na wo hyehyɛ neema said the Bible can say so bi wona se yensie ne ya opon bakra so wo faso echen.
Together with 7 other people she employs, her opportunities have grounded. She can only hope to see COVID-19 over one day.
Senyame boawa na wotwe bi wo ho a timinya bi a opepepe dunai ena da enye kura na wotwe bi wo ho a obenya opepepe nai sese de ni nyina hwere.
Confanochi Auto Health and Ambulance Service is a well-organized group operating on the precincts of Ghana's second largest referral facility. When the news team visited the terminal at about 5 p.m. on Friday, tens of them had been rendered idle. Virtually, no bodies are cleared from the morgue for burial. Nana Owusu Jemfi is the acting chairman of the Driver Association. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oyinmintiria reporting.
So let me take you back to the intensive care unit at the Confanochi Teaching Hospital, which we understand for the next 2 weeks will operate at half capacity. My colleague Erastus Asaridonko is on the ground for us with details. Hello, Erastus.
Yeah, Gifty.
Erastus, what can you report from there?
Well, so information we are getting from the ICU of the Confanochi Teaching Hospital is that many of the doctors have been exposed to the disease because of a polytrauma patient they attended to about 4 days ago. And so as we speak today, many of them have taken the COVID-19 test and they are expecting the results within 24 hours to know their fate. So currently, as we speak, the ICU is not running as it should be. Doctors are not available to attend to all cases, and so they are restricting themselves to cases that need urgent attention, emergencies, and then referring the others. That is what we have. But then the isolation centers that we have at the Confanochi Teaching Hospital and the Kumasi South Hospital, we understand, are overstretched, and currently they are full. What I'm hearing from doctors is that they are seeing severe cases now. People are coming in with cases that are not asymptomatic as we used to see. People are now getting sick. And so it's overstretching the facilities that they have to the extent that at Confanochi, they are bringing some of the cases closer to the wards, which is not advisable.
So as many as 200 people, 200 health workers who have been asked to isolate. Erastus, I'm wondering how people who are coming in with these conditions you are mentioning feel about it. Did you speak to some of them? What did they tell you?
Well, the few doctors on standby are now attending to just emergency cases. And so many of the families who have come in with emergency cases will have to wait for their turn. And if they are not able to attend to them in a matter of a few minutes, then they are referred to other facilities. But in Kumasi, it's only Komfo Teaching Hospital which can really advance the kind of care that people need. So it's coming as as a worrying situation for families who are here and people who want emergency care for their patients.
And for you, what have you observed being there today? What can you see there?
Well, I can see, I saw patients who are gathered outside. You know, there are strict enforcement of health protocols currently, and so patients are not, families are not allowed to enter the intensive care unit unless they nominate one person to go in there. So you can see many patients outside. In the morning, there are those who brought people to be attended to. They will have to be triaged, and if they think that your case needs urgent attention, they will attend to you. I saw patients, people who have taken their people elsewhere because they feel that their condition is not so urgent and that they can seek health care elsewhere. That is the situation we have here at the Komfo Teaching Hospital.
Erastus, thank you for that update. Erastus Asari Donko, who joined me live from the Komfo Teaching Hospital in the Ashanti region capital of Kumasi. Now, the World Health Organization is warning of a second wave of coronavirus outbreak as over 100,000 confirmed cases have been reported worldwide each day. Director General of the WHO, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, in his latest address mentioned that it took over 2 months to reach the 100,000 mark, but now that is a daily norm. He cautions the world leaders to stay alert to the possibility of a resurgence.
Globally, more than 7.8 million cases of COVID-19 have now been reported to WHO, and more than 430 deaths. It took more than 2 months for the first 100,000 cases to be reported. For the past 2 weeks, more than 100,000 new cases have been reported almost every single day. Almost 75% of recent cases come from 10 countries, mostly in the Americas and South Asia. However, we also see increasing numbers of cases in Africa, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Even in countries that have demonstrated the ability to suppress transmission, countries must stay alert to the possibility of resurgence. Last week, China reported a new cluster of cases in Beijing after more than 50 days without a case in that city. More than 100 cases have now been confirmed. The origin and extent of the outbreak are being investigated. Despite the ongoing global response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we cannot lose sight of other significant public health issues, including influenza. Influenza affects every country every year and takes its own deadly toll. As we enter the Southern Hemisphere influenza season and begin planning for the Northern Hemisphere season, we must ensure that influenza remains a top priority. Co-circulation of COVID-19 and influenza can worsen the impact on healthcare systems that are already overwhelmed.
Dr. Ghebreyesus there. Let's go to Parliament, Ghana's Parliament, where the minority leader has maintained that the Electoral Commission does not have any legal justification for the compilation of a new register. In spite of the Commission's insistence, it will go ahead with the creation of that new register. Karuna, who is the minority leader, argues that the EC intends to phase out 6,300 out of the 33,000 polling centres, a situation he believes will disenfranchise electorates. The EC APC appeared before the Special Budget Committee to brief them on their preparedness towards the compilation of the electoral roll. Listen to Mr. Idrisu, who says his side of the House is not satisfied with the answers provided by the Electoral Commission's chairperson.
One, having listened to her, I feel profoundly troubled in my heart for the future of Ghana's democracy. And I feel disappointed that in her answers to questions at the committee level, she made two significant worrying statements that the people of Ghana must know. To paraphrase her words, they intend to phase out the registration exercise in some 6,300 registration centers out of the 33,000 registration centers across the country. That troubles my heart because Article 42 will not be observed in essence through making available to Ghanaian people a legitimate and guaranteed right they are entitled to under Article 42. Phase out registration exercise. Not absolute, not countrywide, not in every registration center, and not in their 333,000 gazetted polling stations. So it means that the number they are given today contradicts what has been officially gazetted. So take note of that. The second matter, which is even more worrying, she does not seem to understand the essence of data synchronization and data harmonization. In her answers to a simple question, she stated, I'm paraphrasing again, they do not intend to use the data of the National Identification Authority. So what will they do with National ID card? Any person walks there, no opportunity for verification, no opportunity for authentication. She emphasized that they would use it only for purpose of identity, that you are a citizen of Ghana. So she does not understand what it means to share data, to synchronize and to harmonize the data. If any of you have a Ghana card, the chip in it, if you build it into a dedicated and a well-built software and hardware, your biodata must necessarily show up, and you should be able to verify and authenticate it at that polling station. I do not see a cooperation and I do not see a collaboration, even though that have been made an essential primary reference document. But her assurance is that they would accept it only for purpose of identity, that you are a Ghanaian. Not, naturally, we had made the request that she should appear before our committee. Better late than never.
Karuna Idrisu is a minority leader there in Parliament. Kwesi Baka-Wilson will bring you more of that in our other bulletins as he's still in Parliament. Now, the countdown to the governing New Patriotic Party's parliamentary elections has begun as aspirants race to capture the hearts and minds of the delegates this Saturday, June 20. The primaries will be held in all constituencies with sitting MPs, with the exception of Ayawaso West Wugon. Party officials say the polls will be held on electoral area basis per the Electoral Commission's designation. We're 3 days away from the elections and campaigning is heating up. Well, one of the hotly contested areas is Dominikwabenya constituency, where the Deputy Majority Leader, Sarah Adwoa-Safo, and Michael Quay Jr. are going head-to-head. Sarah Adwoa-Safo has been speaking about her chances on the Super Morning Show. Remember earlier we had here Michael Quay Jr. with his own ideas of what he wants to do in that constituency. Listen to the current MP now?
It's not been bad. I mean, Ghana first, our nation first. So Parliament is service to our people. And this is more or less like an internal family matter.
Your opponent, Mike Okwe Jr., what do you make of him?
I think he's an ambassador. And he's in the constituency. This is the second time he's contesting me. Yeah.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you assess his abilities, you know, and I'm sure he's spoken quite publicly about what he plans for the constituency. What do you make of all of that?
I think when you're going for a contest, you spend very little time focusing on your opponent. I think you put in more energy and more work into what you have to do. And our target is the people who are going to vote for us, which is the delegates.
Yeah.
What do they make of you? What do they expect of you? And what they make of your representation of them in Parliament and in the constituency. So myself and my team, I think we've focused more on the delegates who are the key makers more.
It did get a bit heated at some point, you know, some things were said.
It's 2012. It was like that. It's always been like that. So for us, it's no news. They're always coming like that. Yeah.
Do you think it's unfortunate? Do you think you could have done without some of these?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Yes, we could have handled it much better. But I think there's a brighter future ahead, and so let's look ahead. I would have wished that we have they would have handled it a different way, but it was rather unfortunate. But we're moving on, and I have been the mother of the constituency as well, and being a woman, I am the one to show love. I'm the one to show that there ought to be peace. Yeah. And that's exactly what I've been doing. Anytime I meet my team and my supporters, what I tell them is that it's not about fight, it's not about insults, it's not about aggression or anything. It's about telling the people what I have done, what I hope to do again, and what holds for us as MPP in the 2020 elections that's ahead of us. And that's the bigger picture that we all ought to look at.
Let's listen to George Anda, Member of Parliament for the Ewutu Senya West constituency in the Central Region, who wants to maintain his position on that seat.
Evidence is clear that we have been able to do more than what we came to meet. And people in Ewutu Senya West, to a large extent, are extremely proud now to be saying that they come from Ewutu Senya West. And I think that those are the messages that are cutting through to the delegates. You talk about even the kind of unity in Ewutu Senya West. You're coming from a situation where the leadership that was in control was not uniting the constituency. Now you cut across from the reverend ministers of the religious organizations, to the traditional authorities, to transporters, to traders. Everybody is coming together. Everybody is looking at putting Ewutu Senya first, and I think that is one of the big things that we've been able to do.
All right, so before we call it a day today, I want us to have a conversation on education. It's one of the key things we're having to deal with, especially in these days of COVID-19. You know that you have to school at home, do so many things at home. Well, the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council has introduced especially designed accredited courses to increase the knowledge and employability of Ghanaians during this era. So whilst you're taking care of your children's education, here is an opportunity for you. John Appiah is head of mission for the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. He's joining me via Zoom to give us a bit more details about CHIME. Hi, John. John, it's good to have you once again. Break it down for us. Let's try and get people to understand how important this program is for them.
Well, I think
as you said, the CHIME stands for Commonwealth Home Individual Management Education. And it's all about being able to provide skills, knowledge, and qualifications to Ghanaians during COVID. Because we realized that during this COVID season, a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people have been at home. And due times, we've designed this special 36-module program for them, such that by the time COVID is over, which we hope very soon, they will come out with great new qualifications that will put on their CV. They'll come out with more knowledge, they'll be more employable and more beneficial to their employers and to Ghana in general.
So be more employable, be more beneficial to the people who have employed you at the moment. Can you tell us about how it fits into the how does it fit into people who already have skills? What kind of different skills are we looking at here for this to provide?
Well, Gifty, I'm going to confess to you, I'm actually taking some of the courses. Some of the courses are things like project management, operational management. As the account proverb says, it's never too late to learn new skills and to update yourself. And there's nothing like too much education or too much qualifications. So this is specifically for people who want to upskill themselves. If you want to learn new things on project management, maybe you've been an entrepreneur who has thought you never needed it. This will actually help you to see all the things you have been doing that you didn't understand why you did it that way, but to actually try and improve your process of doing it. And I think it's absolutely excellent. You don't need any qualifications to be a part of this. You can do it on your mobile phone. You can do it at home. You can get onto the program online at work. It's open to everyone, and it's specifically during this COVID time. And we're very excited about it because we think that the population's economic growth is really based on the skills of its populace. And that is why we've designed this program.
So I'm interested in this program. What are the next steps? What do I do? The last time we had a quick conversation with you on this, I had someone calling to find out how they can go through the process. So please help us.
So the process is quite simple. As you know, Joy, you're one of our partners, as well as the SDG Advisory Unit of the Office of the President, as well as the National Commission for Civic Education, National Youth Authority. Those are all our partners on it. It's easy to do. I go to the website. The website is chimeghana.org. That is www.chime, Ghana, GHANA.org. ORG. Once you go on to chimeghana.org, it's very straightforward in how you register. You just press registration, send your name and information, and we'll get back to you on the next steps to take. It's 185 CDs, which is a complete bargain for 36 modules. Usually one module is worth about $200, but we've been able to subsidize it as much as possible. Because we're using a third party for the online aspect of it, we've been able to subsidize it for as much as possible. And I hope you'll be part of the call. I hope you'll be my classmate, and we can graduate together.
Now that'll actually be great. You know, I can't wait for that experience.
Definitely.
So I go through the details again. Is www.chimeghana.org. That's www.chimeghana.org. That's www.chimeghana.org. And it's 185 CDs for 36 modules. Something that's actually should be costing much more than that.
Much more than that.
Do you have on hand the WhatsApp line as well? Because I had people ask for that.
Sure.
Okay,
the WhatsApp and the phone number is 059 460 4444.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So 059 460 4444.
And it's absolutely exciting. As I said, we're very happy to have you as our partners on board. And that is what's made it possible. And I'm hoping there's courses like operational management, project management, customer service, communication techniques. And I'll encourage a lot of people to go on and sign up. And because as soon as it's filled up, we're done. So sign up. But Gifty, there will always be a space for you. So.
Oh, by all means, I'll take it by force if there isn't. But of course, we believe in education, and I'm not saying it just because we're partners. I'm saying it because we believe in education, and this is the best time to add value to yourself. When things are a bit slow, this is just the right time to take advantage of the moment, you know, to encourage yourself with it. So thank you so much, Mr. Pia. It's good to hear from you once again. So why don't you give yourself a chance. 185 cities, that's just lunch. You want to, put that on this education. You want to put that on this education drive. Get yourself the skills that will make you not just employable, but most importantly, beneficial to your employers. Chimeghana.org is where you want to be, and 059-460-4444 is the number you want to WhatsApp and find more information on this about. John, thank you. Talking about learning, the Joy Learning channel on Monday chose 2 students as ambassadors. The 2 were chosen from over 600 students from across the country and some West African countries through an essay competition. They wrote on the topic, quote, how can Ghana make e-learning accessible to all? 10 finalists were selected, and today the final 2 were crowned through a virtual ceremony. Hannah Odami joined them for the event and now reports.
The Joy Learning channel is the first ever educational channel in Ghana with a focus on junior high and senior high students. They are taught by teachers on television. 15-year-old Nanabina Chiredua of the Yasantua Girls Senior High School and 14-year-old Tete Famous Benson of the Blencoe RC School are the new ambassadors of the channel. For the next 1 year, they are expected to disseminate information from the Joy channel to their communities as well as their colleagues. Channel manager of Joy Learning, Nana Iya Asiedu, shed some light on the competition.
We designed this concept to give them the opportunity to improve on their writing skills and to also give them a platform to share topics on national issues affecting them directly.
One of the judges, A.C. Ohene, managing news editor of Adum News, also explained how the selection was made.
Usual GPS, the grammar, punctuation, and the spelling. That is a mechanical accuracy. Where the punctuation should be, where the comma should be, wrong spelling, all those things. If you did anything wrong, we took just half of a mark.
There was a surprise element for the 10 finalists. They had the opportunity to ask a musician Manifest questions.
All right. Please, when you were coming up in your career, did you face challenges with people commenting about you, giving ill information about you? How did you cope with that?
Oh, one of my secret talents that people don't know is that I have such a great capability of ignoring people.
Aside being ambassadors, Nanabna Chiredua and Tete Famous Benson also received education materials from the Joy Learning channel. For Joy News, I am Hannah Odami.
Hannah Odame with that. And before I give you our final story, some of you have still been sending your messages on face mask. This is coming from Auntie Charlotte and Auntie Sarah. They live at Osu Akweje. They're avid viewers of the Pulse. I must say that's why I'm pausing to do this particular message. And they have concerns. They say the mask thing is a serious thing. They're urging authorities to come by Osu to check, especially the market there. We understand people are defying the rules like it's nobody's business. Well, authorities, you want to take a look at Osu Akweje, what's happening there. To wrap up the show, many thanks for staying with us through it all. Let's do this again tomorrow. There's more news at myjoyonline.com.